Welcome to this definitive explainer on raising the majestic Aseel chicken, taking them all the way from a fragile day-old hatchling into an absolute heavyweight champion. Now, if you're tuning into this, you already know that the Aseel isn't just your average backyard bird. It's an ancient, truly spectacular game fowl, totally legendary for its incredible strength, that proud, upright posture, and a heavily muscled physique. But here's the thing, reaching that massive genetic potential, it doesn't just happen by accident. It takes precision, it takes care, and a really deep understanding of their unique biology. So today we are going to break down the exact science, along with some powerful traditional wisdom that you need to unlock their peak growth. Okay, let's just dive right into our roadmap for today. We'll be covering Meet the Aseel Chicken, First Month Fundamentals, Health Care and Vaccination, Power Diets and Nutrition, and finally, 5 Fatal Breeding Mistakes.
Section 1. Meet the Aseel Chicken. Let's start with the foundation by defining exactly what we're working with here and taking a quick look at the genetics.
You know, right out of the gate, it's absolutely crucial to understand the difference between two specific birds, because the Indian Aseel is constantly, and I mean constantly, confused with the Japanese Shamo. Both of them are incredible, heavily built game fowl for sure, but the Aseel, it's an ancient breed originating in India, specifically bred for raw strength and incredibly dense meat, with a very distinct, majestic, upright gait. The Shamo, on the other hand, comes from Japan and is known for a much taller stance and thicker feathering. Recognizing your bird's specific genetic lineage is really step one in tailoring their care.
To put things into perspective, let's look at some fascinating data straight from the Pakistan Journal of Zoology. This maps out the growth performance of 4 native Aseel varieties at 15 weeks of age. Check out the Lucca at the top there. It actually pushes past 1,400 grams, achieving the absolute heaviest raw weight. But don't sleep on the Mushki variety right beneath it. While it comes in just a bit lighter at around 1,377 grams, research shows the Mushki actually has a superior early growth rate and an incredible feed conversion ratio, or FCR. Basically, it's exceptionally good at turning the food it eats into pure muscle. Knowing your variety is what helps you set realistic benchmarks for your flock.
Moving on to Section 2, First Month Fundamentals. Now that we know our genetics and our benchmarks, let's talk about the absolute most fragile stage of their entire life, those first 30 days.
35 degrees Celsius. Seriously, burn that number into your memory. If you want rapid growth, mastering temperature control is non-negotiable. On day 1, whether they're hatching under a hen or in an incubator, those chicks require an environment of exactly 35 degrees Celsius. From there, you have to be totally systematic, stepping that heat down gradually, usually about half a degree a day, until they hit about 25 degrees by week 3. If a chick gets chilled, its growth stalls out immediately, and it might literally never recover its full trajectory.
Now, this first day's protocol is amazing because it perfectly blends traditional practice with hard avian biology. When your chicks hatch, step 1 is, well, to do nothing. Think of it as a mini detox. You actually want to fast them for 24 to 48 hours because they are still absorbing their yolk sac. Step 2, you flush their system using water mixed with jaggery, which is a traditional unrefined sugar, for about 3 to 4 hours. This acts like a natural laxative, clearing out their delicate digestive tract so there's no blockage. Only after all that, at step 3, do you introduce a high-quality zero-number starter feed. Believe me, giving hard feed too early is one of the biggest causes of early chick mortality.
Section 3. Healthcare and Vaccination. Let's look at how to protect these highly valuable birds from devastating diseases by taking a really strict, clinical approach.
You really have to put your scientist hat on for this part. Following this strict, chronological vaccination timeline is the absolute key to keeping your flock alive. Day 1, they need the Marix vaccine, which honestly is often done right at the hatchery. By day 5, you administer the ND plus IB, that's Newcastle disease and infectious bronchitis, usually done via a mouth or eye drop. Then on day 9, you introduce the Gumboro Light vaccine, and as they wrap up their first month, right around day 27, you hit them with the ND plus IB booster. Oh, and a pro tip, always follow up a vaccine with immune-boosting multivitamins in their water to prevent any stress.
But hey, while we definitely rely on modern vaccines, we can also look back to generations of traditional wisdom to treat common ailments. Take Zarherbad, for example, which shows up as severe leg weakness, facial swelling, or joint issues. For this, breeders turn to a highly potent natural remedy. You literally just take 1 round chili, soak it in mustard oil overnight, and give it to the affected bird first thing in the morning on an empty, fasting stomach. Repeat that for a few days, and master breeders swear by its ability to clear the swelling and restore mobility. It's an absolutely fantastic tool to keep in your back pocket.
All right, Section 4,
power diets and nutrition. Once your birds are healthy and finally out of that fragile chick phase, here is exactly how you start building those massive, heavyweight muscles.
Get ready, because this is the legendary Master Aseel homemade power feed. This is absolutely not your standard commercial pellet. This is all about packing incredibly dense, high-energy ingredients together to push your bird's physical limits and really enhance their plumage. You start with a base of 14-number starter feed and roasted black chickpeas. Then, you toss in crushed almonds and high-quality paper shell walnuts to give them those healthy fats. But the secret weapon here is nar chuhara, male dry dates, which are larger and super nutritious. Finally, you add just a touch of cloves and black pepper to aid digestion, binding the whole shebang together with pure butter or dalda ghee.
Preparing this? It's honestly like being an artisan chef. First, you take that dry date and soak it in milk overnight so it softens up nicely. Step 2, you take all those dry ingredients, the chickpeas, almonds, walnuts, and spices, and you grind them into a super fine powder. Finally, mix in a spoon of butter and just a tiny splash of warm water. You definitely don't want a sloppy paste. You're going for a crumbly, damp mix. You want to offer this protein-packed mix specifically in the evening, ensuring their crop is relatively empty from the morning, which guarantees maximum digestion and nutrient absorption all night long.
So, let's say you've got the genetics mapped out, the heat is perfectly dialed in, and you've got this ultimate power food ready to go. But what happens when, seemingly out of nowhere, your chicks just stall out? Their weight plateaus, they look a bit lethargic, and the growth simply stops. Why on earth does this happen?
Well, that brings us to Section 5, 5 Fatal Breeding Mistakes. This is the final and frankly most critical segment of our explainer, the pitfalls you have got to avoid at all costs.
Let's break these down. Mistake number 1 is feeding during the peak afternoon heat. The birds will pant, suffer heat stress, and just completely refuse to eat. Always feed them in the cool mornings and late evenings. Mistake 2, leaving their water to get hot and dirty. Warm water ruins their digestion and is a breeding ground for bacteria. Mistake 3 is suddenly swapping out their feed type, which severely shocks their digestive tract. Mistake 4 is overcrowding. Packing way too many birds into a small cage skyrockets their stress levels and invites disease. But it's the last mistake on this list that is perhaps the most insidious of them all. I want to leave you with this final, incredibly provocative thought. 90% of breeders fail because they don't take 2 minutes to sit in silence and deeply observe their flock. Guys, all the scientific data, the strict vaccination schedules, and the artisan power feeds in the world will not save your Aseels if you aren't paying close, quiet attention to them every single day. Are they lethargic? Are they eating with vigor? Are they standing proud? Catching a problem early through quiet observation is the true mark of a master breeder. So let me ask you, are you watching your flock closely enough? Take that thought with you, and thank you so much for joining this explainer. Keep learning, and most importantly, keep observing.